Good day Philippines, good day Central Mindanao University. From the station that gives you fair and balanced news broadcast, this is Flash Patrol and we are virtually live for a news update.
Good day, on behalf of Group 5, I'm Lyenneth and this is our report on global migration. Humans have always been migratory. It is the result of their movements that areas get populated, communities experience diversity, and economies prosper. Let us take a look at migration and treat it as a complex social phenomenon that predates contemporary globalization. Migration has two types, internal migration and international migration. Internal migration refers to people moving from one area to another, while international migration refers to people who cross borders of one country to another. The latter can be further broken down into 5 groups. First are those who move permanently to another country, which is called immigrants. The second refers to workers who stay in another country for a fixed period, at least 6 months in a year. Third is an illegal immigrant, and fourth are migrants whose families have petitioned them to move to a destination country. The fifth group are refugees, also known as asylum seekers, or those unable or unwilling to return because of well-founded fear of persecution on account of race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group, or political opinion. Now, Kylie, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Lai. Demographers estimate that 247 million people are currently living outside the countries of their origin. 90% of them moved for economic reasons, while the remaining 10% were refugees and asylum seekers. 50% of global migrants moved from the developing countries to the developed zones of the world and contribute anywhere from 40 to 80% of their labor force. Their growth has outstripped the population growth in the developed countries, such that today, according to the think tank McKinsey Global Institute, first-generation immigrants constitute 13% of the population in Western Europe, 15% in Northern America, and 48% in the GCC countries. The migrant influx has led to a debate in destination countries over the issue of whether migrants are assets or liabilities to national development. Anti-immigrant groups and nationalists argue that governments must control legal immigration and put a stop to illegal entry of foreigners. A 2011 Harvard Business School survey on the impact of immigration concluded that the likelihood and magnitude of adverse labor market effects for native from immigration are substantially weaker than often perceived. The fiscal impact of immigration and social welfare was noted to be very small. To enlighten us about the benefits and detriments for the sending countries, here's Kevin and Christine.
Thanks, Kylie. Even if 90% of the value generated by migrant workers remain in their host countries, they have sent billions back to their home countries. Remittances make significant changes to the development of small and medium-term industries that help generate jobs and likewise change their economic and social standing. Their purchasing power makes it possible for their children to start or continue their schooling. However, there remain serious concerns about the economic sustainability of those reliant on migrant monies. Remittances may help in lifting households out of poverty, but not in rebalancing growth, especially in the long run. Now, for more information, here's Christine Ortiz. Christine, take it away.
Global migration is siphoning qualified personnel and removing dynamic young workers, are often referred to as brain drain. The loss of professionals in certain key homes, such as doctors, has been detrimental to the migrant home countries. Government are aware of these handicaps but have no choice but to continue promoting migrant work as part of state policy because of the remittances and the impact of GDP. Because they are equally concerned with generating jobs for an underutilized workforce and in getting maximum possible inflow of worker remittances. Government takes part in recruitment and deployment of works, set up special departments in order to cater the sustainability of migrant-dependent economies. And with that, let's take a quick break.
Did you know that when we talk about global migration, it is inevitable to talk about human trafficking? The United States Federal Bureau of Investigation lists human trafficking as the third largest criminal activity worldwide. In 2012, the International Labour Organization identified 21 million men, women, and children as victims of forced labor. an appalling 3 out of every 1,000 Filipino worldwide. For more information, here's Joel.
Yes, Chess. Prior to statistical data, the number increases up to 90% of the victims are exploited by private enterprises and entrepreneurs. 22% are sexually abused, and 68% work under compulsion in agricultural, manufacturing, infrastructure, and domestic activities. However, human trafficking has been very profitable, earning syndicates, smugglers, and corrupt state officials profits of as high as $150 billion a year in 2014. Moreover, government, private sectors, and civil society groups have worked together to combat human trafficking, yet the results remain uneven.
This is Cheska Pamisa
Joel Saura
reporting.
Back to our discussion, a final issue relates to how migrants interact with their new home countries. They may contribute significantly to a host nation's GDP, as their access to housing, healthcare, education is not easy. There is of course considerable variation in the economic integration of these migrants. Furthermore, the West accuses migrants of bringing in the culture from their home countries and amplifying differences in linguistic and ethnic customs. Crucially, the lack of integration gives xenophobic and anti-immigrant groups more ammunition to argue that these new citizens are often not nationals in the sense of sharing their dominant culture. Passing the mic on to Hamza.
Thanks, Reymond. So, in particular, migrants in turn is keeping among themselves through enforced detention, but instead of facilitating integration, they exacerbate differences and discrimination. Governments and private businesses have made policy changes to address integration problems, like using multiple language in state documents. Training programs complemented with counseling have also helped migrants integration in Hamburg, Germany, while retail merchants in Barcelona have brought in migrant shopkeepers to break down language barriers while introducing Chinese culture to citizens. Whether these initiatives will succeed or not remains an open question. So, to sum up the discussion, I'll pass this mic to Justine Hector. Justine?
Global migration entails the globalization of people. Migrants have different experiences in accordance to their movements, like globalization. Moreover, migration produces different and often contradictory responses, and despite these various contradictions, it is clear that different forms of global interdependence will ensure that global migration will continue to be one of the major issues in the contemporary world. The various responses of this movement, xenophobia, and extreme nationalism in the receiving countries, dependency in the sending countries will continue to be pressing issues.
And that concludes our news broadcast, brought to you by Flash Patrol, where the truth is the mirror of prosperity.